Welcome, everybody, and happy Friday. I'm Brooke Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director of the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. Thank you all for joining us as we celebrate through storytelling the resilience of families. This is kind of our kickoff for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, which takes place in March. And this year, the theme for this year's Developmental Disabilities Month is We Are Here All Year. And really what that means is that we should all year long recognize, support, champion, advocate with and for, and celebrate people with disabilities and their family members. And these stories that you are about to hear today give you a little glimpse on why we should be doing that all year long. The DD Council is really proud to partner with the Digital Storytelling Project that's through the Child Health Specialty Clinics. And we're excited to share this with you today. I think you'll enjoy these stories. We are recording this, so we know not everybody could be here, so we are going to send this out to our network. It'll be on our website, so feel free to share it, to post it, like it on Facebook, all that good stuff. We're going to go through each story. There's 4 video stories. After each story, we're going to break and allow for questions from the audience before we go on to the next story. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, who is going to talk a little bit about the program and introduce our videos and our speakers. Thanks, Rachel, for being here, and I'll pass it on to you.
Yes, thank you, Brooke, and thank you for allowing these families to share their stories. We're excited to hear them and to have a wider audience as well. As Brooke said, digital storytelling is a project of Child Health Specialty Clinics at Iowa Healthcare, and we did it in collaboration with the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. So, digital storytelling is designed for families of children with disabilities. Digital storytelling is a powerful tool for creating connections, building empathy, and inspiring action. As humans, we love stories, and especially stories that come with deep insight. Digital storytelling is a 2-day in-person training with one pre-training virtual session just to learn that video platform. This training is modeled after the Story Center model based in Berkeley, California. And storytellers choose to reflect on their journey as a parent and share the intimate parts of their struggles to help understand their journey a little bit more. This process is not only reflective and transformative to the parent, but it also helps the listener to hear the impact of the family voice. It helps us to be more aware of the struggles and triumphs of being a parent with a child with disabilities. If you're curious about taking this training in the future, we plan to offer it again this fall. It's offered at no cost to participants. Interested storytellers can apply by reaching out to us, and we'll put that information in the chat. If you'd like us to reach out to you, please put your name or email in the chat as well, and we will let you know when that training is going to be offered. So we're going to start with our first storyteller. First of all, we have Jillian Kaufman. Jillian lives in Eldridge, Iowa, with her husband, 4 children, and their very needy German Shepherd. Her oldest daughter, Maitland, was born with profound bilateral hearing loss.
Emily, we are not hearing anything.
All right, hold on one second. Let's restart my share.
Of course, it's a Friday, so there'll be technical difficulties.
Okay, let me know if this one works for you.
I haven't always had a voice. Or should I say, I haven't always used my voice. Our voice has power, but I felt like I had none. Our voice gives meaning, but I felt lost. Our voice allows us to be seen and heard, but I was so used to being silent, insecure, and afraid of rejection. Learning to be an advocate for my daughter challenged me in ways I never envisioned. I felt an internal pressure to learn and know a world that was foreign to me, to make the right choices, to be the voice for my daughter. Thinking about using my voice never felt powerful or meaningful. I was battling against the voices telling me to know my place, to be quiet, to not ruffle any feathers or make any waves. I didn't want to appear as a needy, ungrateful problem starter. I didn't want my daughter to be a target because of how I was or wasn't showing up. And yet, I knew I wanted to show up for her, to be her voice. The room was chilly. Sitting around a table with school professionals, special education and intervention staff, with bright hospital white lights glaring down on me. My heart was pounding, nearly beating out of my chest. I feel like she needs more. Did I just do it? Had I just made a subtle hint, a near request, that my daughter needed more? I felt like more services were needed for her, but no one else was making this suggestion. The people who knew more than me in deaf education and the people who were supposed to be ensuring she had access to the resources she needed hadn't suggested anything. Should I have kept my mouth shut? But my voice was heard. This was the pivot that changed her access to resources and paved the way for immense growth over the next several years. Our team of professionals may not always see the gaps or know the specific needs our child has at different times in their lives. Wrestling with the belief of needing to look, sound, and behave a certain way ultimately gave me permission to go to battle with my internal dialogue and how I was showing up or not showing up. I started practicing vulnerability, asking questions, and speaking up and showing up. She needed me to ask for what hadn't been offered. My voice has power, gives meaning, allows me to be seen and heard. My voice creates the foundation for her to use her voice, for her to be seen, be heard, and to fill the silence.
Thank you, Jillian, for allowing us to share your story. I always have to hold back a little tears every time that I watch it, and I feel like I've seen it many, many times. But um, I just love the impact of you sharing your voice and then helping your daughter advocate for herself through her own voice. I wonder who else might have some appreciative comments or even some questions for Jillian.
Thank you, Rachel.
Mhm.
And people can raise their hand and come off mute, or you can put your questions in the chat and we'll read them as well.
I just wanted to say that was a beautiful, beautiful story. Um, and my son is nonverbal, so I'm trying to find my voice with him. What other things were inspiring you, like to give you that, go ahead and confidence to do what you're doing every day?
Thank you. It honestly, I still struggle sometimes. I think really just putting myself out there and doing it has like helped me know that, okay, this is possible. And then I always enjoy like self-help books and just like different things that are encouraging. And then really the support, honestly, my husband has been like the biggest supporter of me and always has my back. Some of my family members and some of my friends too. So just having that encouragement, and then just reading and being around other people who use their voice has been really what's been impactful for me or helped me, use mine. Thank you.
Jillian, I have a question to you. Our comment, that was a very impactful video. I totally related to it from when I started the process with my son as well. How that internal dialogue just can beat you down, like you second guess yourself all the time.
Yeah.
One question that I had just reflecting is, when you found that courage and to speak up, what was the response to the team like around you with that? Did you find that there was more people who were actually yes on your side, or like that it maybe the pros and the cons of it? It wasn't part of your video, but
Yeah, thank you. I think we have been incredibly blessed and lucky that we weren't met with a lot of resistance. So I honestly not sure I would be where I am now if we had been. I don't know if I would have kept powering through, and I hope I would have. I just don't know. And so yeah, we've had a really good school district who's always been supportive. Or if we just had our IEP meeting last month, I think it was, and they were talking about removing one of the goals, and I'm like, no, I actually want to keep that a little bit longer. And so and they were supportive of that. And so it's I know that's not everyone's story, or maybe a lot of people's stories, that they have really supportive staff and school district people. But I think that was a big piece that ultimately helped my daughter, but definitely facilitated like my ability to like grow and use my voice.
No, and just like it was very inspiring for those parents, I think, that do have that inner voice as well, to say no, you can speak up. So thank you for contributing that.
Thank you.
We'll take one more if somebody has a comment or question, and then we'll move on to our next storyteller. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Jillian. It is a very vulnerable process, so we know that sharing these stories far and wide it can be intimidating, but thank you. Next up, we have Andrea Carlson. Andrea and her husband live in Indianola, and they have 5 children. Her son Joseph was diagnosed with Peters anomaly at birth. It's a rare eye condition which caused him to have clouded corneas, and he could only see variations of light until his corneal transplants at 3 to 4 months of age. He's since been diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and others. Andrea, let's look at your video.
The moment my baby opened his eyes for the first time, I knew. I saw for the first time what others did not. I noticed that the windows to his little soul were cloudy. I saw something and immediately started to panic. It would take a day or two until we heard the news, your baby is blind for the first time. It took the wind right out of me, and I couldn't breathe. He was given a diagnosis of Peters anomaly. We were told that for him to have a chance at a sighted life, corneal transplants were his only option, but time was of the essence. We didn't have much time to wrap our heads around doing the research or what this diagnosis and procedure actually meant. We had to relearn what parenting looks like to a blind infant and tried to figure out new ways to set us out on the journey we were on. He was 3 months old when he had his first corneal transplant on his left eye. We were sent home with a small pharmacy of medications and eye drops to be administered around the clock. We knew his vision wouldn't be immediate, but would slowly start to form a connection between his brain and the eye. Around 4 months old, while in the middle of a local grocery store, we noticed him wiggling his hands in front of his face. It was at that moment we realized that the transplant was working and he could see his hand in front of his eyes. That gave us even more motivation as we headed into his second transplant a few weeks later on his right eye. Our son's journey began in those early days in the hospital and continues on today as he just recently started the 4th grade. His journey has taken many an adventure off on a side road or a side street with no outlet. We've hit one-way streets and do not enter signs, but we continue to navigate them. The path we are currently on may not have been what our original destination was, but it is one that we continue to marvel at the beauty while we are on the ride. That's not to say that we don't encounter bad roads here and there, or even a pothole once in a while, but we are slowly edging our way through this path and in turn, teaching him how to create his own along the way.
Andrea, I love the part where the light shines through the window. You just feel that moment with you. It's so impactful. The images that you use, but just that moment too. Does anyone have any questions or appreciative feedback for Andrea?
I do. Andrea, that was a beautiful, beautiful story. And I saw that, that you had said that you had went down some rough roads and you had some, do not enter. I'm kind of running into that myself. Um, what, other than your child, what is kind of like, what pushed you through those, the red tape to kind of just not taking an answer of no? I'm finding that really hard right now.
Well, thank you for your kind thoughts. For me, the best support that I received, and I think the biggest person who taught me how to be the biggest advocate was Joe's preschool teacher and his early intervention team through AEA. They were the best, especially his preschool teacher. He started preschool at the age of 3 with an IEP, obviously. And so we were there for several years, and I'm still friends with her to this day. But she really instilled in me that I have that right. I have the right to question. I don't have to take things at face value. And as she started to instill in me that I have the ability, just like everybody else does, it really gave me the driving force that I can do this. At one point, Joseph still has usable vision, but his vision is deteriorated over time. And I had made a request for Braille instruction and was immediately told no. And I took that at face value. And then after that IEP meeting, I left that feeling very, very defeated. That's when I kind of got my bearings and I'm like, I don't have to take no. I learned everything I needed to know about Braille instruction and IDEA and how that pertains to a visually impaired child. And that's what I try to do now is just try to empower myself with as much knowledge as I can. And I try to surround myself with people who will help lift me up so that it can help push me in that right direction.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Andrea, we had some comments in the chat. Linda says beautiful and brave. And Suzanne says, thank you, Andrea, for sharing. Beautiful to hear your story.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a comment or question? All right, we will move on to our next storyteller. Next up, we have Dareen Lovan, and she has 2 sons and 1 granddaughter. She's a U.S. citizen, but she's originally from Guatemala, and she now lives in the Iowa City area. Her son has severe nonverbal autism. Let's hear Dareen's story.
I remember like was yesterday, walking into the freezing room, sit down in front of the doctors, the specialists, with my dreams for my son. He will growing up. He will be a doctor. I just thinking the day that he get married, I'll be there. I will be there when he get his driver license and his first car. Everything gonna be fine. They will recommend him a treatment, a medication, and he will be fine. He will start talking, making friends. He will stop the aggression behaviors. Before I know, the psychologist, the doctor, and the speech pathologist and the social worker say the tests are done. We have the result. They told me it is autism spectrum disorder, profound, nonverbal. It was like having my beautiful vase in my hands and fell into from my hands into the floor in pieces. My first question to them was that he able will be able to talk one day to be independent. The only thing they say, we don't know. We could not determine if he will or not. I may never listen to him, to his words, to say, Mama, I love you for the first time. Mama, I'm hungry. Mama, something wrong. So many questions, but no answers. They asked me if I have any question. I didn't know the system in the United States. I don't know the language. How I can begin and ask questions. I have no clue how to go through this process. I felt confused and very scared. I don't know what to do, where to go. I feel shame because my country, Guatemala, disability carries a stigma. They don't want to talk about disability to this day. So I don't gonna tell my family or my community. They are gonna say that God punished me. I don't gonna tell anyone about this. I went home and cried. I left the doctor office with my broken pieces. How I gonna do this? I prayed to God, please help me. Weeping one night, God, give me the answer. God say, give me those broken pieces and we are going to glue them together. Pieces by piece, one at a time. Yes, we are gonna see scarf where the pieces are joined together, but they will become different work of art. I will bless you with compassion for others so you can teach other parents like you. I went to school, learned English, finished my GED, graduate from college, become a citizen of this country, and start a support group for Latino families. Today, I believe the autism came into my life to teach me to see through a different lenses to help parents to understand the unexpected diagnosis does not determine what God will do with your life. You can decide to put those pieces together with compassion, love, and persevering. Glue them together and gluing to continue advocating for the voice of people with disability.
Irene, the thing that sticks out to me is you have so many of the pieces that we experience as families when we get that diagnosis. There's that added layer of this being your second language and receiving the diagnosis, and then just the stigma that it carried in your own culture and just the loneliness that that brought. And but I love the hope that shines through at the end. It's so powerful. Anyone else have a comment or question for Dayreen?
I just love how raw you were in explaining. A lot of people don't go to that side. And I loved that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dayreen, we went through this class together and it was a process for both of us, but I want to say what you are doing for your community and within your culture, you are opening up, I think you're opening a conversation to help with what you dealt with yourself. So good job. Wonderful. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
I want to agree with what Andrea said right there. How your voice can bring voice to so many other people when they hear that and give them the strength too. So very good job.
Dayreen, in the comments, we have a comment from Brooke. She said, "Thank you for sharing. You are so strong." I agree. Donna says, "What an example of being a wonderful advocate." And Suzanne says, "Thank you for sharing, Dayreen. God bless you. You are so courageous."
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate. I know that's not easy as a parent, as my own perspective and culture component, but I know yeah, establish like a different way. And every time I know parents, I feel like bond with them too. And yeah.
All right, we will move on to our final storyteller. So we have Shelly Zymet. Shelly and her husband Dustin live in Marion, Iowa. They have two children, William, who is 17 and profoundly autistic, and Link, who is age 8. Shelly is a pastry chef, and her husband is a software architect. I look forward to hearing your story, Shelly.
Give up guardianship of my baby, my William, just because I wanted help? Just because I needed help? No. William, he was born perfect, gorgeous. He was the physical embodiment of my heart walking around outside of my chest. But something in his mind was different. When William was 14 months old, I called early intervention. We started therapies. So many therapies. You name it, we tried it. Always resounding in my head, the words of doctors and psychiatrists. 5 key traits. One diagnosis to cover it all. Autism. But that word didn't define him. It didn't mean that he couldn't still sing beautiful songs and swing happily. It didn't mean that his laugh wasn't pure magic. It didn't mean that he was any less my very heart and soul. It did mean pain for him. It meant not being able to speak, self-injury, destruction, no sleep. It meant ABA therapy and a severe behavioral clinic. It meant supplements and medications just to make it through a day. all to help my boy feel better, to be happy. Isn't that all any mother would ask for? It meant giving my everything to try to give him one thing: quality of life. It meant pouring from my own cup again and again until all that was left was the cup itself. It then meant breaking off pieces of the cup and handing them over to anyone around me who could maybe, just maybe, save the love of my life. After years and years, when my cup was no longer able to stand on its own, I cried for help. Someone, anyone, give us some relief, some respite, resources, send resources, as if I hadn't spent a decade researching every possible avenue myself. I walked into the ER after 12 hours of a full-blown autism meltdown, a meltdown that would not let up on William for even a moment. And they told me my only option was to leave my child there, give up guardianship, and wait for DHS to come get him. No hospital admittance. He could be in a dirty room in the basement for months until someone came to get him. My baby? My William? No. So I took him home, still in crisis, and I got to work. I filled out dozens of applications for intermediate care facilities, to no avail. 2 years after that ER trip, we got the call. A spot opened up in a facility. And I don't have to give up anything. My baby can still be my baby. I can still see him and love him. The time we spend together is so much more valuable. William living in an intermediate care facility has given me the ability to go from caregiver back to mom. I've been given the chance to set him free, the chance for his independence, the chance for change, the chance for a better quality of life for us all.
This is how to get.
Thank you, Shelley, for allowing us to share that. It really highlights the impact on families and the lack of resources available.
Yes, absolutely. I just have like a little spiel if I can talk before questions just about our impact of specifically utilizing the facility, if I can have a second.
Absolutely.
So at this point, William has been at the facility for 4 years. He actually just moved to the adult facility, which is a more permanent residence. He's now 17. And there's no way to describe the impact that him being able to live in a facility has had on our life. While we've had to drive 15,000 miles a year, just to make sure we can get out there every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, I can still make it to doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and everything. There's just no other resource that could have given us the ability to sleep at night, which was the first biggest thing. People don't realize if you don't live within an autism house, the sleep deprivation is incredible. Like at one point I couldn't sign a check. I didn't even know what year it was anymore because it was 10 years of sleep deprivation. So with that being said, I just wanted to shed a little light on the importance of HCBS waivers. Disability, Medicaid disability, and how those avenues are what we eventually had to use in order to even secure a spot in a facility. And I know there's people waiting. The wait lists are 5 to 15 years long, and we only had to wait 2 years. And even at that, we drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back every time. And we're actually going to move out there soon. We've just started looking at houses, so we're going to move right in the same town as him so that I can see him every single day. But I just wanted to shed a little light on how important the waivers are and how important high pay rates for direct support workers are, no matter if it's paras in schools, if it's respite workers, or if it's direct support within these facilities, because we want quality engagement with our loved ones, and we want to make sure that they're still able to partake in community living and life skills. And for us specifically, I mean, of course, I miss him every second he's not here. I miss him. That's why we're moving. But it was life changing. Like, just every part of his life got better. The school is better. His daily life is better. And one thing that I know for a fact that I could not have done was spend the time researching to understand a lot of his medical issues, which were like comorbid issues of autism. And we found that he actually has hypogammaglobulinemia, where he doesn't make his own antibodies. And he had tons of infections. Every week we'd have a new infection. And now he receives life-saving transfusions every single month because of the time we had to recoup while he was in the facility, and the time I had to research and just get better as a whole.
Wow, Shelley, that that is amazing. And it's good to hear that he's still there and doing well, and how brave of you to move closer to him, but I completely, yeah, understand why you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been long overdue. It's going to be a big change for everybody, but it's like we either move there now, or then it's harder for his little brother, like going up and up in the grades. So we might as well just make the jump finally.
Do you want to wrap? I can make you a wrap, or is your wrap in there?
Anybody have any questions or comments for Shelley?
I guess I was identifying one more time. I've been seeing the video about how powerful it is. And as having a son with behavior aggression, so I really understand to have those long nights and wondering what's going to happen, because at times they don't go sleep until the whole night. And I know how that could be stressful and also danger at times too of the aggression. And so I'm really admire you, and I know that you are wonderful mom and person.
And I feel like, just because you touch base on that, like, if you don't live this life, there is no way to understand. Like, it's not just that your child's awake at night, it's that your child who could elope and run away is awake at night, and that you have cameras all over the house and security systems. But that's not enough if they get in the tub and they burn themselves, or they overflow the tub, or they get into the refrigerator and break every egg. Like, these are not things they're not a detriment to his being, but because of what he deserves in life, the quality of life and the safety that he deserves, it is absolutely crucial that he has 24/7 around the clock care of caregivers that have slept, caregivers that are refreshed, caregivers that only come in for 8 hours and then get to take the night off.
Yeah, because I have to lock my doors every time, and having videos and cameras on him the whole time too is really hard. It's not easy.
Always, absolutely. Like, our son can't be alone for even like 3 minutes at a time. You just don't know. Like, at any point, he has pica as well. So at any point he could be like eating non-food items. And then of course we've already established huge amounts of bowel obstructions within the autism community, or any bowel issues. And if your child has eaten magnets, or they have eaten any form of non-food item, there's just these very specific things that you don't consider until you have lived this life. And then you're like, absolutely, like, no matter how much I love him, no matter how much I pour from this cup, it will never meet the need and the quality of life that he deserves without additional 24/7 care. It just is not possible.
Shelley, in the comments, Suzanne said, "Thank you, Shelley. You work so hard. Goodness, such a good mom." Diane says, Shelley, I remember you telling us you had to get adept at patching drywall, a skill I'm sure you never thought you would
The
need.
master of plaster. Yeah, I just know how to fill holes in literally any wall. Like it's just, it was a thing. Sometimes you go through a throwing phase and sometimes they throw their heaviest, most beloved toy through a wall. So that's it. And like the thing about that is when I say this, there is no like anger or resentment or frustration toward William. Imagine that you could not tell someone how you feel. You couldn't tell someone you have an ear infection. You couldn't tell someone that your feet hurt. You couldn't tell them how you're feeling about your day. You couldn't tell them you're hungry. Like, of course you're going to throw something. Of course you're going to self-injure if you have a headache and nobody can tell what you're saying. So, yeah, becoming a drywall repair person, that definitely happened.
Shelley, you are such an inspiration. That everything that you've said is just amazing. Because yeah, I've said that too with multiple people. Like my son will be up all night and they're like, "Oh, just put on cartoons," and I'm like, "It's not like that. It's not just
No.
put on cartoons and lay out on the couch." Um, so that was very inspiring. So 5 to 15 years for wait lists.
Yeah, so actually, when I was in the LEND program, that's the Leadership and Education for Neurodevelopmental Disabilities, I was one of the parent advocates, actually with Dayreen, she was my other parent advocate partner. We did research papers, and my research was actually on the amount of intermediate care facilities that are available in Iowa based on severe behavioral needs. So this isn't even just like the high functioning autistics, but this is the very specifically severe nonverbal will need lifelong help. And the ratio was 5 kids in need to every 1 bed available. And even at that, like when I said we got denied, we were denied from 20 places before we were accepted from our current place. So absolutely, it could be 5 to 15 years. It can be even longer. Like the reason that we took the spot in the adult facility when William is only 17 right now is because if you don't take that spot, you have the chance that they will age out of the youth facility and then your child will be placed either 2 or 3 hours away or 8 hours away or even out of state. So a lot of times, if you don't get in young and age up into that spot with seniority, it'll be 5 to 15 years as an adult to try to get into a facility. And that's the thing. You're in crisis. At the point that you need a facility that you decide, like, someone help me, you're already in crisis. And then you're waiting 4 or 5 years after that to get in. And that's just, we need to do better.
Yeah. So you recommend kind of jumping on that right now? Like, I mean, my son's 9.
Well, it really depends on your family network that you have. Like for me, I've done a ton of other talks on this. So my parents passed away when I was a kid. My husband's parents don't live in the area. Like we literally don't have an ounce of family around. So if you don't have like a built-in village whatsoever like us, there was nothing else we could do except find respite workers. And like William is such a that's my son's name is William. He's such a beautiful human being and soul and funny and exciting to be around. He laughs and he sings. That it was not like when I was looking for respite workers, people fell in love with him immediately. Like that really wasn't that hard to find the workers at the time. But then to keep workers, like when they're college students and then they move away, or one of my most favorite workers ever, she is absolutely amazing. She became a special needs teacher herself. So
Yep.
of course, like this is great that we're having good people put in positions like that, but at the same time, keeping those workers is really, really difficult. So it really depends on your village and the amount of help that you have. And then of course, like each human being is different. Like every person with autism can react differently to everything. Like I said, my son, we found out multiple diagnoses. We found the hypogamma, we found eosinophilic esophagitis. Like there are so many other comorbid diagnoses that make his life difficult day to day and require a lot of medical care on top of just like the behaviors. Like we did 5 years of ABA. We did speech therapy, horse therapy, aqua therapy, anything you can imagine we did. So it was pretty much after we exhausted every single option and I got to the point where I took him to the hospital because I'd never done that ever. I've never asked for help in any capacity like that. And when I had to meet with the hospital admin and they told me, talk to your legislators because we're not going to help you, I was like, this is not right. This is not fair. And then I imagined other things, like people in a situation where there's a cultural piece or a language like deficit. Imagine that you don't speak this language and you're going through that. Like, there are so many families in need, and there's different aspects to every type of autism, every family and the needs that they have. But specifically for us, we just didn't have the support system. And if you don't have a built-in support system, you've got to get the respite on hand. And then, I mean, I would say at least by the age of like 11 or 12, if you think that you want to utilize a facility, start applying.
Awesome. Thank you so
Shelley.
much, Shelley.
Yeah, it sounds like you two should maybe connect offline. That's great. Shelley, you're such a resource. Did I have a comment from someone else? Molly.
I have a question. Yeah. How do you find or how do you apply for the like the facilities? Because my son is 10 and we just know that he's going to need full-time care or some sort of facility when he ages out of school and becomes 18. He's not going to be that kid that goes to college and gets a place of his own and stuff. I just didn't know how you apply for those facilities.
Shelley,
So,
I'm
go ahead.
wondering if maybe we could connect you offline to
Oh, yeah, we're out of time.
there.
Yeah, you can give my email to anybody who wants to send questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, Molly. I know that's an
No, it's
important
okay.
question too, and we'll make sure you get connected to some resources. I just wanted to read some more comments. Kathy says, I want to thank everyone for sharing their stories. Linda says, amen. God bless you. And William, thank you for speaking out about this. You are an amazing mom. My heart goes out to you and others facing similar issues. And Brooke says, I appreciate all of your stories. So looking at the time that we have left, does anyone have any other questions for any of our storytellers or comments? I did put in the chat a link to our website so you can find out more information about digital storytelling, other storytelling projects that we have. If you need a family navigator for support through Child Health Specialty Clinics, we'd be happy to connect you and other resources there. So I believe there's also a link to the YouTube channel where you can watch additional videos. All of our stories that have been done are there. So
Rachel, how many families have gone through the digital storytelling? Do you know? And not to put you on the spot on the top of your head, how many do you think?
okay. I would have to say maybe about 15 to 20. And if Diane, if you have a thought on that number too, I believe we've had 5 cohorts. And we intentionally keep the groups small just because this is an intensive process, and we want to be mentoring each of the participants so they get that support in developing the story, developing their video and things, so they feel comfortable with their final product. And
Well, and it sounds like it's also a kind of a networking and bonding process to go that with other moms and dads too. So they probably make real connections and friendships too by doing that. Sounds like it too, just by the conversations we've had here today.
yes, we kind of start the process with a story circle where the family has either a prompt or something that's just coming up for them and free space to share about that. And that helps them to kind of make connections, to reflect on their story, and allows that to emerge. And that's where we find the most connection and the most like, yeah, me too. I've been there. I understand what you're going through. And that's powerful when you don't get that in many places. So
Well, I just always love hearing these stories. They're just so powerful, so inspiring, so strong. I mean, you say all the good adjectives there. They just really are. So I appreciate everybody sharing what they did with us today.
I was also wondering if any of the participants had something they wanted to say about the process, either like maybe nervousness about sharing your story, apprehension, or how it went. It's okay, it's putting you on the spot.
That's great if none of them are nervous. It'd make me nervous just even thinking about it. So you guys,
Again, please put your name in the chat if you would like to participate, and we will loop you in when we start planning for the fall. We're thinking November for training. So, and it is 2 days. So we do cover all your costs as well. All right, Brooke.
well, I guess we'll give everybody 8 minutes back of your time on this Friday afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining us. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and for Diane.
Do we have some poll questions, Brooke?
We do, and they should pop up when you sign off. Hopefully.
Oh,
Technology is our friend today.
gotcha.
Yeah, so please fill out those survey questions that hopefully are there when you sign off today, everyone. Oh, and we got some people interested in the storytelling, so good. We'll capture all that.
Yeah. Love to see
Awesome.
that.
Thanks, everyone.